Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every day we continue our pursuit to uncover the fusion of technology with real-world applications. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the very core of green blockchain and the growing importance of transparency and traceability in carbon credit programs. And Denis Creighton, the CEO and co-founder of IMPT, is going to be joining us today. And he's a visionary in the carbon offsetting ecosystem and also co-created IMPT with an ambitious goal to empower consumers and businesses to reduce their carbon footprint through everyday actions without demanding radical lifestyle changes too. So I want to learn more about how, by leveraging Ethereum blockchain, IMPT is ushering a new era of verification, trust and adaptability. And Denis is going to enlighten us on topics ranging from the benefits of capturing carbon credits using blockchain technologies to the state of carbon credit offsetting, the innovative ways individuals can maybe contribute to a global and sustainable development. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Ireland, where Denis is waiting to share his story. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, Neil. My name is Denis Creighton. I'm CEO and co-founder of IMPT, the Planet's Loyalty Program. A little bit of my background, a techie from the 80s, worked initially as a programmer on a lot of emerging tech, programming binary and hex and assembler, and then was really fortunate to work on almost every emerging tech that happened through the 80s and 90s. Then I moved into the world of mobile comms. So basically I was involved as a very early employee in the first mobile company in Ireland. And that was a great experience because I was getting to apply a lot of my technical background into a business community. And then from that, I moved into a number of different roles in a variety of businesses, financial services, BPO, tech, as CEO, CTO, and COO. And a number of years ago, I was looking at getting close to the end of my career and how could I get involved in something that was a bit of a kind of a swan song, making a difference, leaving something behind, not just like commercial success, but something that actually made a difference, something for my kids and my grandkids, and make sure that, a bit more of a sustainable future. And IMPT originally was actually meant to be a Web2 project, but we realized very quickly that to get the transparency and traceability associated with carbon credits, it needs to be on the blockchain. But we'll cover a bit more detail in that in later on.
Cool. I love the story behind that and what made you create it. And of course, some people listening will immediately think of the energy costs and energy consumption associated with blockchain and crypto as part of the problem rather than the solution. So we've got to go tackle that problem to begin with. So how do blockchain technologies, especially Ethereum, enhance the transparency and verification process of carbon credit offsetting? And what challenges does it address that the traditional system couldn't?
Yeah, very good question. And I firmly believe that there's a lot of work to be done by the blockchain industry in itself to actually get the word out there that things have changed quite a lot. I mean, if you take Ethereum's merge, overnight they reduced 99.9% of their carbon footprint, and I think that's a pretty significant statement in its own right. It's one of the reasons that IMPT is actually on Ethereum as well. And I think more and more of blockchain players, they're actually far more environmentally conscious than ever. And I think consumers as well, right? When they see that there's organizations and solutions trying to make a difference, then the whole element of a green blockchain is really, really clear that that's what's needed, right? I mean, if you think of it, tech, and by its very nature, and the development of data centers right across the globe has been one of the biggest issues associated with power consumption. And we have that going on in Ireland. We've got a significant number of players, and you can see the strain that it puts on the national grid. And I think when you start seeing more and more organizations migrating their tech to a blockchain stack, especially a green blockchain stack, I think that's a great start, and that's a beginning of people understanding what needs to happen. For us, the most important point on picking the blockchain was associated with the bad reputation that carbon credits had. You had fraud, you had double counting, you had lack of controls in place, and there's some well-documented cases that we even had one this year where one of the major international standards were the subject of a documentary that proved that quite a lot of the carbon credits and programs that they were involved in were not actually delivering any great value. And to me, the solution to this, and I was actually speaking at the ETC conference last month in Paris, just on this very topic of what can the blockchain actually do in relation to ensuring that the world of carbon credits is a better place. And to me, it's the transparency, it's the traceability. And these are, key words that you can associate with the blockchain. And I think that the speed of how things can happen, if you take programs at the moment in the world of creating carbon credits, it can take up to 2 years to get a carbon credit and a program approved. Doing that on the blockchain, you could comfortably get that done within 9 months. And every single touch point is traceable and transparent. And I think that's a really important milestone in the development of the tokenization of carbon credits in its own right.
And from the outside looking in, the IMPT model seems to be about focusing on empowering consumers, making it easier for them to contribute to climate change mitigation. So can you explain the thought process behind the approach, how it differs from other solutions that people may have seen or read about online?
Absolutely. So I suppose maybe the best thing is if I do a very simple explanation of what is the reason behind IMPT. I often say at various presentations that politicians create policy, but it's people who create change. Yeah. And, you've got countries signing up to 2030, 2040, 2050 agreements. Well, unfortunately, most of those governments probably won't be in power when that comes about. Most of those politicians probably won't be alive. The solution tends to be always around taxation. You have both the mandatory and the voluntary carbon market. The mandatory is just basically ensuring that certain industries, manufacturers and that have X amount of carbon credits. And the solution for a lot of them at the moment is they buy carbon credits rather than address the core issue. And one of the reasons in that is it's often cheaper to buy the carbon credits. And then you have the voluntary space where people could actually buy carbon credits to start making a difference. But that market is, it's a challenging market because of the issues I outlined earlier on, the fraud, the continuous known issues all over the world are projects that actually never were real in the first place. I mean, some key stats that are a bit shocking. Last year, 37 billion tons of carbon emissions happened. It was the year that the highest awareness of carbon emissions was also there. So we know more about it than we ever did, but nobody's really doing that much about it. For me, the important thing is that you've got to get to a position of how do you make this easy for people. And in one sense, COVID delivered part of our solution in that the awareness of digital commerce, moving everybody to online, the ability to do your shopping in a particular easier way than ever before, educate a lot of people to it. And equally as well, if you look at climate change, almost everybody knows that we've got a problem globally. So what we've done is basically, as part of your day-to-day normal living, to come up with a solution, which is you do your normal shopping. We started out initially with our platform and then our 2 apps in April of this year, which allow you to register with IMPT, do your regular shopping. We've got Amazon, we've got eBay, we've got Nike, Samsung, we've got all the big brands through our affiliate partners. And in return for doing that shopping through us, you get a percentage of your purchase back in IMPT tokens. And those tokens can exclusively be used to convert into free carbon credits. So basically what we're doing is, as part of your day-to-day shopping, allowing you to start moving towards being carbon neutral as an individual. And that is the first step for change, because people will make the change. When we used the NFT process to mint the actual unique carbon credit to you, to ensure that it's traceable and it's transparent. And then when you get your carbon credit, you have a choice: do you retire it on that project? Do you keep it, just hold it, or do you sell it on the open market? Now, we urge people to retire it because that's where you get the best benefit. But even if when you sell it, at least it's been bought by somebody who has a requirement to reduce carbon emissions. So therefore, it is helping. And 2 weeks ago, we announced that we're at beta test level at the moment of our off-net solution and our Web 2 solution. And the purpose of that is we launched a SaaS model, software SaaS model last month, which allows individuals or companies to buy the rights to IMPT within that country, or within cities or areas or regions within a particular country. And the whole idea here is to get actually almost like turning IMPT into a global movement. So that's why we call it the Planet's Loyalty Program. What we're pushing on now in the next part of our core development is getting IMPT, whether it's a Web3 solution and you're buying off Amazon, or whether it's your local coffee shop and you're just getting a scone and a cup of coffee, that we're making this available to everybody all over the world, so that as part of your day-to-day shopping and normal living, you're earning free carbon credits. So that's the kind of full end-to-end of what it is we're about.
Fantastic. And I think for every individual to be carbon neutral, it's just got to be a huge leap forward in protecting the planet that we all call home. We all share it. There's no avoiding that. And many will look around, though, and see things like oil and energy companies, billionaires flying around in private jets and trips to space, big businesses not taking responsibility for their carbon footprints, etc. We've all seen those kind of things as well, and feel like, hey, the man on the street is having the finger pointed at them when others or big corporations are not taking responsibility. Do you help businesses and other areas take this responsibility seriously too?
Well, the first part of what we're about is that, as part of your shopping experience, a percentage of that is being given back by the retailer, right? Yeah. And that's where the free carbon credits come from. So that's our B2C model. We will, as part of the development of our roadmap, move into a B2B model. And that will be that those companies that we've signed deals with from a retail point of view, we'll start working with them to actually take and buy carbon credits from us, and then look at their entire supply chain. Because if they can do something small on every touch point, whether it's the gathering of the raw materials, the manufacturing process, the distribution, if they can do something small every time to reduce the carbon emissions associated with that touch point, that's the beginning of things changing. And I have this concept, and I'm not sure if it'll be taken in frame by the world, but I would love to think that every organization out there, most companies pay an annual bonus. Well, if a percentage of your bonus could be paid in the IMPT tokens that are used to convert to carbon credits, well, first of all, it's probably more tax efficient in that it would be treated as a capital gain rather than actually an income. But the second thing is the employer as well as the employee get to claim the recognition for the amount of carbon emissions that they are reducing through just their normal process. And I think there's, you start creating a socially conscious environment, and I think that is necessary. And if it starts from bottom up, I think we have a better chance of success in forcing corporations to actually start taking it seriously and to make a change and make it part of their own standard ESG policy for day-to-day activity.
Yeah, and I think we're already seeing people and consumers actually rising up against some of those big companies and calling them out for greenwashing and saying they're doing things, but actually doing very little. And people are also choosing who they shop with, who they do business with, depending on how seriously they take those responsibilities. So moving on, can you elaborate more on the IMPT Retail Partnership Network? How does that benefit both the retail brands and the consumers in their journey to become more eco-conscious?
Yeah, the whole purpose behind the retail partnership model was basically to get as many people on board that know how to quickly get the word of IMPT out there, that have that distribution network or that passion or desire to actually become part of the IMPT network itself. And you'll get shops and businesses, and like whether it's a sole trader or a large corporate, signed up with IMPT. And that way, then you're automatically growing the actual reduction of carbon emissions. You're getting people educated about what it is. But, big organizations will still have their own loyalty programs. But the thing here is, by looking at the off-net and the web too, we're actually expanding the Planet's loyalty program to everybody. So if you've got two coffee shops in one particular area, and one is offering IMPT and the other isn't, well, that by its very nature will drive more footfall to that business. So that creates that awareness as well. So the whole purpose of the partnership model is just to drive the whole movement of IMPT as global as possible, as quickly as possible, and to start basically reducing carbon emissions at a quicker rate.
Fantastic. And what kind of feedback have you had at the moment? Is it? I know it's very early on still, but are you getting a real desire for change here and people wanting to make a difference?
Yeah, you know what? We live in a very cynical world, but I have yet to have anybody come and say that's BS or that doesn't exist. That's a problem. It's scaremongering. Everybody gets it. Everybody thinks it is so simple. That they're still going around doing what they're doing day to day. And you made a comment about people earlier on, consumers being far more aware. Our research shows that teens, 20s, 30-year-olds are so aware of change. Actually, they blame us, their parents, causing it in the first place. But they're very aware, and they basically will drive change, and they vote with their feet. They don't like what's going on. They're far more understanding of sustainable fabric and what that means, and they're willing to pay that extra bit if necessary. But we want to get to a position that you're sitting with your friends in the local pub or restaurant at a weekend, and you're comparing the number of IMPT tokens that you've generated, the projects that you're engaged with, that you bought a new pair of Nike runners this week and you were carbon neutral in your purchase. This is kind of the way we think that will get everybody engaged with the whole principle of carbon reduction. And, that socially conscious element of it is just going to become de facto. That's where we see this going over the next couple of years, is that it just becomes ubiquitous with shopping. And we have to start making a difference ourselves.
Yeah.
If you look at the significant growth in electric cars, that's another debate in its own right, in the sense of, manufacturing of batteries, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have hybrid and, reduction of diesel and emissions. All of that really has been driven by human demand. And, that's why, I suppose, the one downside is it's become, in some cases, more of a premium play as opposed to mass market. But I think in time that will change. And the technology is improving time and time again. And I think the more and more that consumers make it easier for manufacturers to actually move to a more sustainable future, by encouraging more, by buying more, and basically saying, well, if you don't do it, I'll go elsewhere. I think that's going to be the pivotal point where people really start to take notice.
And just to bring to life everything we're talking about here, can you just walk me through how the Planet's loyalty program works, how users can earn points to trade for carbon credits, and some examples of just everyday actions that can help contribute to this too? Yeah,
it's it's relatively straightforward. At the moment, as I said, what we're completely live with is our Web3 solution. So you use our platform, or you download Android or iOS apps onto your phone. You create your account, you link it to your wallet, and you start your shopping. And your shopping, you use the app. You go in, you pick your country, you browse through the various brands that are there. So we link you directly through to the likes of your Amazons and eBays and that. And it doesn't affect any existing loyalty program you have with them, right? That doesn't interfere in any way. But you go in, you buy your pair of runners, your sneakers, and when you're actually coming to your checkout, you get a percentage of that purchase price back in the form of IMPT tokens. Now, of course, every element of the awarding the tokens is linked into the returns policy, and that
can be 14 days, could be 30 days, could even be 45 days with some companies. So it remains pending until such time as the retailer says, yeah, okay, it's, you've purchased, you haven't returned, and then you get these points allocated to you. You can see how many points you have, and you can let that build up for as long or short time as you want. You then go and look at the variety of sustainable projects that we have, and you go and you select one of those, and you basically exchange your tokens for your free carbon credit. And at that point, when you have your free carbon credit, you decide, okay, I'm going to retire that particular project, or I'm just going to hold it and sit on it and wait and see what happens, or I'm just going to sell it on the open market. And there are a couple of platforms out there that do that. But either way, you've actually, you still got your pair of sneakers. You still paid the same price that you would have paid for them anyway had you gone direct. But in return, you're actually getting a free carbon credit, and you're beginning to move towards becoming carbon neutral in your shopping experience. So that's a kind of a simple summary of the end-to-end of how that actually works. And if you think some of the developments that are going on at the moment, and how big this whole market is for carbon credits, and this is why I believe that more and more of what's associated with the whole world of carbon credits needs to be on the blockchain. Is the mandatory carbon credit market is currently valued at about $270 billion. And the voluntary carbon market is only at $2 billion. Now, that's expected to grow to in the region of $100 billion by 2030. So straight away, you can see that there's a planned growth strategy associated with ensuring that more and more carbon credits are available. And that's where I think the blockchain can add a huge amount of value to it as well.
And for any individual or business that may be new to the concept of carbon offsetting, or maybe they've heard a few controversial things about it, can you just share some innovative ways that any of us can start a journey towards reducing our carbon footprint using IMPT? Is any use cases or stories you can use to maybe again bring that to life?
Basically, I suppose for us, the proof is in the amount of people that are exchanging for free carbon credits. And we get a lot of anecdotal feedback through our community. We've a large Telegram and Discord channel and all the social media channels as well, of course. And we get quite a lot of feedback. And we have a forum where we have platinum, gold, and silver groupings, and when we have a regular update with them, and they tell us themselves about spreading the word with their friends and the projects that they've engaged with, the difference that it's making. And there's a pride about being able to say, I've actually I was 50% carbon neutral last month. This month I'm aiming to be 60%. And people have started looking further afield in just their shopping. They're beginning to look at their whole world of travel, and how can I change things a little bit that'll start to make a difference. So for us, we believe what we're doing is we're a bridge for the consumer into the world of carbon reduction. And I think as we expand our country and area partnerships, and more people start to actually get on board, that we'll have serious metrics to show, right, on what a difference we've already made in the reduction of our carbon footprint. I mean, if you think of it, one carbon credit, right, that permits the emission of 1 ton of carbon dioxide. Yeah. And it takes roughly about $100 to take out each ton.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot yet to be done, but this is the first solution that enables everybody all over the world, whether it's Web3, Web2, or off-net, to actually, earn free carbon credits. And that whole awareness will make them then start looking at the whole world of living and of being socially conscious in your day-to-day behaviors. And that's what makes a difference. I mean, I'll give a couple of examples on, and actually both started in Ireland. One was the removal of plastic bags from supermarkets.
Yeah.
Starting charging for it. And then people started to go, okay, well, I'm not doing that. I'll bring my reusable bags. It's become internationally standard now. right? So that in itself had a significant impact. The second thing was no smoking in pubs or restaurants. I won't say it's in every part of the world, but it's in quite a lot of places of work. Because when you make something relatively easy but the same for everybody, then it starts to get adopted. And that's what we believe IMPT will become as part of the reduction of your own carbon emissions. And if you start taking decisions associated with you as an individual, then the rest will follow.
And as you said, there's still lots to be done. Mindsets need to change, and we're all on this journey together to becoming more socially conscious. So if I was to ask you to look into your virtual crystal ball and creating a positive future, given your expertise, how do you envision the future of the carbon credit marketplace, especially with emerging technologies like blockchain coming into play? Is there any kind of future vision you can share with us?
From my point of view, the more, and I think I know it's actually already happening, because we've already started seeing some, the likes of the gold standard, right, which is one of the highest regarded. They made an announcement in February of this year that they were working with 5 blockchain companies to tokenize their carbon credits. That to me was a massive change in the right direction, because what you have there is entire traceability and credibility associated with every carbon credit and every project that's engaged with. And there's a 16-step process from the UN on what's a sustainable project that actually is making a real difference. The more we get to a position that every single element of the creation, sourcing, and distribution of the carbon credits is on the blockchain, then we'll have made it, because that element of tech, the green blockchain, I think can be revolutionary. I mean, I think you'd agree, Neil, that if the world of banking was on the blockchain 10 years ago, we mightn't be in the state we are with certain issues. Let's put it that way. I think the blockchain gives also speed of access. And I think one of the things that I love about the blockchain as well is the very fact that you own your own data. You as a consumer can have a lot more control over your own data, what happens and what doesn't happen with it. And if you take all of that, cross-link with your green blockchain and into international projects and carbon reduction programs, all sitting there, you're going to have far more control, far more awareness. But the most important thing to me is far more credibility and trust that what you are engaging with as a consumer or as a corporation in the purchasing or acquisition of carbon credits is actually true, safe, and making a real difference.
And for any business or individual listening to our conversation today, they want to become more environmentally responsible. They want to be the change that they want to see in the world, but find themselves unsure on where to start. Is there any tips or advice or actionable steps that you'd recommend that they can take to move forward more positively, especially keeping in mind solutions that people like yourselves at IMPT offer?
Well, I mean, I suppose my obvious answer, Neil, and first thing they have to do, whether it's consumer or corporate, is sign up with IMPT and start using it, because that's your first step. And, by taking these baby steps, that will make people more aware of what they're getting. And we're not asking for individuals to make any major change in how they go about their day-to-day living. If you try and do that, I think you get quite a lot of inertia and pushback. But by making it as easy as possible, I think then people become more conscious of it. And as a result of that, they'll bring that into their whole work environment and start thinking about it and talking about it. And that's why I call this a movement as opposed to a solution, right? It needs to be absorbed into every country in the world, right? It needs to be accepted as the norm. And, I would love to see a position where it's taken on board by governments that this may be tax deductible or something like that. Now, that's not something that we're lobbying for or looking at, but I see no reason in the future that if you want to drive interest and if you want to drive growth in something that is, making a difference to the planet, well, maybe if you made it a tax deduction as part of day to day, it might be something that would encourage people more and more to get on board, and business people and corporates as well, because, we're at the mandatory market for the reduction of carbon within a number of corporations is going to increase significantly over the next couple of years. So people won't have a choice in some of the business. They're going to have to change. And look, ESG policies have been around for years, and recycling. And I suppose if you look at that, 2 decades ago, there was 1 bin in your household. Now you've got 3. Same in companies. And I think, it will take time, but we believe that what IMPT is doing here is actually making everybody aware, and we're making it easy for them to do it. And I think that would be a very good first step. And, the idea I mentioned earlier on, that you could get part of your bonus paid in IMPT and you get your free carbon credits, and that would make a significant impact as well.
It's funny how things move in cycles as well, isn't it? Because I was born in the 70s. As a kid, I took bottles back to a shop and were paid a few pennies to recycle them. We used paper bags to carry groceries. Nothing was thrown away. Everything from electrical items to cars were reused, recycled or fixed. And I still remember appliances coming without plugs, and my dad having a drawer full of plugs for years just in case they would come in. And it's almost like we lost our way and found ourselves sleepwalking into this throwaway society where we just throw everything away and, hey, we can buy a new one cheaper. It's like we lost sight of our responsibilities along the way in some ways, haven't we?
That's a huge point, Neil. And I find it's incredulous, the attitude of some people towards disposable. I mean, they don't even know, as you said, how to change a plug now anymore. Yes. If you said, did you check the fuse?
Yes.
Where's the fuse? What does that mean? I just buy another one, and it's that, it's crazy that we've got to this position. We've advanced so much in many ways, but in other ways, we've actually gone backwards because we've now got more waste than we ever had.
100% with you. And I think that's a powerful moment to end on today. But we have talked about a lot of very serious issues today and talking about solutions. But I want to end on a light-hearted note. So I'm going to throw a slight curveball at you now, because on this podcast, we have a Spotify playlist and we also have an Amazon wish list. So what I'm going to ask you, is there a song or book that means something to you or you'd like to share with everyone listening that we can either add to that Spotify playlist or the Amazon wish list? All I'm going to ask is, what would you like to leave us with today and why?
For me, books, right?
Yeah.
I've one which is my personal favorite, and then there's a business book that I've used as part of my mentoring over the last 2.5 decades. Long Walk to Freedom, my favorite book of all time. I've read it about 5 times at this stage. Story of Nelson Mandela. It still makes the hair stand at the back of my head, my neck, when I read it. And I just find it exceptionally powerful, when you have a belief and when everything is against you, and you still have that belief and you see it through. And, I suppose the book became more relevant as we got more access to information about what Nelson Mandela did at a time when others had no belief that he would ever achieve anything. So I find that incredible. And the business book is similar, but not about a person. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, by a guy called Murphy. Not an Irish guy, I believe. It's American. But that book gives an individual great insight into how the mind works and how you can actually educate your mind to deal with the subconscious mind, to deal with challenges in life or open up opportunities. And the two kind of work side by side with me, because one is the business side and one is the personal side. And on the music, my favorite song, and I've had this since the early 70s and still is my favorite song. I remember actually putting 5 pence into jukeboxes, listening to it, and no, you don't do that anymore. But Leonard Skinner's Freebird.
Oh wow, what a great tune! And I'll get that added straight to the Spotify playlist, and also the books I'll get added to the wish list. And the Nelson Mandela one in particular, which I've read, is just incredibly powerful. And a few years ago, I went to Robben Island, and you see the conditions in the cell there. It's just phenomenal what he went on to achieve. And for anyone listening, though, that just wants to find out more information about IMPT, explore some of the things we discussed today in a little bit more detail, or even contact you or your team, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Go to www.impt.io. Everything there that you'll need to know about IMPT. You can directly just click on download the apps from our website and all the social channels. explainer videos about what we're doing and what we're about. And we're constantly on a weekly basis updating that information. So making it as simple as possible. We're trying to constantly update and build a proper knowledge base so that people can very simply understand what IMPT is about. So, get on board, become part of the Planet's loyalty program and start making a difference.
Well, I think we've all heard we've all seen the headlines around carbon credits, and sometimes very controversial, same as carbon credit offsetting. But I think what you've done today is just talking about it in a language everyone can understand, the reasons why, the environmental impacts that we all have, and why lowering a carbon footprint in adaptable and innovative ways can help us all be the change we want to see in the world, make a difference. And also great to see the role of technology, and in particular blockchain technology, because for this to work, it has to be about trust and transparency. So thank you so much for bringing this topic to life today.
Thanks for your time, Neil. Much appreciated.
I just loved hearing more about Denis's thought-provoking journey into this innovative intersection of blockchain technology and environmental responsibility, and how through IMPT's cutting-edge platform, Denis is heralding a future where consumers have the power to actively participate in reducing their carbon footprint, earning rewards and trading them for carbon credits. I know whenever we bring this topic up, there's going to be a lot of controversy, a lot of people for it, a lot of people against it. And I think ultimately, if we zoom out for a moment, we all want to do the right thing. We all want to ensure that this planet that we all share together is better looked after. And I completely agree with many of the critics that when it comes to billionaires, energy companies, large corporations telling people what to do, that they should be having a look in the mirror themselves. And I think that's one of the reasons that blockchain technology works so well here, because things like this cannot be implemented without trust, transparency, credibility. These are the big words here, not the technology. And it's people that can force these big enterprises, big companies to change their ways. I think that's the message I took from it today. And I think it really does underscore the critical role businesses must play in promoting eco-consciousness and the potential of blockchain technology in transforming the voluntary carbon market that not only inspires trust and credibility, but also beckons a more sustainable future for us all, where we all win. And ultimately, nobody wins unless we all win. For everyone listening, I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on this. I'd love to debate it. Not everybody point fingers and go from binary thinking from left to right and right to wrong. Just sit down, have a conversation about it. What you think, what could work, what wouldn't work. How can we all seamlessly integrate sustainability into our everyday lives? As always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Neil C. Hughes. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your solutions, not just the problems. But that's it for today. So thank you for joining me once again. And hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow, where we'll continue to strive to demystify complex technologies, reveal the real world value. But that's it for today. So let's keep this conversation going on how technology can solve those real world problems in both our lives and business. And hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow. So thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.